Hi, we're back, and I'm here with Gwen Christeson. Good morning.
Good morning.
And we're going to be talking about estate planning, which I think is something that people don't think of soon enough. Oftentimes it's when something happens and it triggers it, and then it's usually too late at that point. So let's talk a little bit about what estate planning is and why it's important for people to be aware of.
Well, thanks for having me today.
You're welcome.
This is a great time to talk about estate planning. People, it might be because they had it on their New Year's resolutions list.
Good point.
January 1st came and went, but they said, this is the year I'm going to do my estate plan. But it's also tax season. And as people pull out their tax forms and everything else, they start thinking about their financial matters. They start thinking about, what are my affairs in order?
Right.
Do I have everything in place? And so I always recommend that people, if they have documents already, that they dust them off, make sure they say what they want them to say, make sure they're signed.
And what kind of documents are you referring to?
Well, we're talking about, when we talk about an estate plan, there's a few components, and the components depend on the exact situation. So most people are familiar with a last will and testament.
Right.
That's just a simple document that says who you are, who your family is, or your children, and how you want your property distributed.
Is that the same as a living will?
It's different.
Okay.
What happens is some people have a will and some people have a will and a trust.
Okay.
The difference is what are their assets. And whereas the power of attorney and the healthcare directive are documents that are only triggered if you become incapacitated. And so when we look at an estate plan, I look to see, do they have a will? Do they have a power of attorney? Do they have a healthcare directive? Do they have a trust?
Wow.
If they don't have a trust,
I
do
never
they
thought
need
about
one?
all this stuff.
And that's why I offer a 30-minute consultation. I have people bring in, sometimes they bring me big shoe boxes or binders, or they bring something that they've done.
Right.
I caution against people writing their own documents, or if they have written their own.
Or going to the internet and, getting a generic package of some kind. And
What happens right now is that the reason why I'm in court a lot is because people have done their own documents and they didn't double check them, or there's something wrong with it. Sometimes it's just causing a lot of unnecessary fees and delay.
Right.
There's a case right now in Amador that I saw the will and it was prepared by a paralegal service. And the gentleman should have had a trust, and because he had a will, the family is paying almost $20,000 in fees.
oh my gosh.
He should have had a full review. He should have been counseled to have a trust.
Right.
What happens is, even if you just own a vacant parcel or a mobile home, the courts are looking to see if what the value is. So your family members still have to obtain a court appraisal to prove
Right.
that the property is worth less than $50,000 or less than $150,000. So just the minute you own real estate, you need to consider a trust. Also, with our family circumstance, if you are remarried and you've got children from before,
Right.
or you have stepchildren, one thing that happens is some people don't want their children to inherit.
Right.
Some people have stepchildren that they want to treat as their beneficiaries.
Right.
And so that's where we want to just make sure all of those wishes are in writing.
Right.
Because if you leave it all to chance, California is going to look to write a will for you. And a lot of times when I sit people down and say, this is what it's going to look like, they want to change what that looks like.
Right. So the nice thing about coming to you to have this prepared is when something does happen, they can come back to you and you can help them out, versus if they just go out on their own, they're just floating out there on their own, and then when something does happen, they probably don't even know what to do at that point. So,
well, and a lot of it's the process. It's the walking through the process of. It's really more simple than you think. We look to see what are your assets, what are your family members, what would you like to see happen. So a lot of times people are scared of it because they don't know what it involves, and we can break it down and make it a little more simple.
Right. Well, it sounds like my husband and I need to come see you because we own our home, we own property, we have 401k, we have pension, we have a lot of stuff, and it's not in order at all, to be honest with you. And if something were to happen, I think that my daughter-in-law and adopted son would probably really be frustrated with us that it's just sitting there and they have to figure out what to do with it, so.
Well, and also at the Law Center, I do offer free seminars.
Okay.
We go through one seminar a month and just talk to people about putting things in writing. If they have an old document, how to update it.
Right.
I also have a class on just how to be a trustee, because we're teaching people how to manage the estate and what they need to do to go through that process. So I just recommend that people come in to see me and find out what the class schedule is. Or
Yeah, you said something that caught my attention that I wasn't aware of, and I'm thinking of my own situation, where we own property and stuff. So the state of California can step in and write a will for you?
if you have nothing in writing, the courts, probate means prove the will. So the court's looking to see who are your heirs and what property do you have. And so intestate succession is when California law writes a will for you, and they choose.
I've
So
heard
you-
that term.
So they choose who your heirs are. So a lot of times when we have a blended family,
Right.
The spouse is protected, but those stepchildren are not
Got it.
protected.
Got it.
And so it's just making sure that everything is official.
Right.
I
So if I'm a young couple and I come to you and I have all my paperwork in order, how often should I come back and renew? Because years go by, I have a couple children, things change. How often should you have that reviewed and maybe updated?
We recommend about 3 to 5 years,
Okay.
but usually it's when something happens. I see the trend is about every 10 years. People will
Right.
come in and I say, well, you realize it has been 10 years. It's okay to dust off the binder and look and see
Right.
what it says. And a lot of times your documents are written so that if there has been a change, if your son died leaving 3 children, a lot of the times the document has already provided for that. And so it's looking to see, did we provide for that worst case scenario?
Right.
Sometimes people just change their property holdings. They've moved here from another location, and so that's a change that just needs to be reviewed and make sure that it's covered.
Okay, well, it sounds like you've given me a lot to think about, and I'm sure you've given our viewers a lot to think about. Real quick, before you go, you're located here on Main Street?
I am. It's
Okay.
at 159 Main, and I'm right here next to the radio station.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks for being with us, Gwendolyn. For now, we're going to transition over to Monique and Pastor Tom.